What if I told you that there's a specific phrase, just three simple words, that could completely transform the way your subconscious mind processes reality, and that the reason you've never heard about it before is because those who use it successfully understand one fundamental rule: you must never ever share it with another living soul. I know that sounds almost impossible to believe. In a world where we're encouraged to share everything, our dreams, our goals, our manifestation practices, the idea that silence could be the most powerful ingredient in creating your reality seems counterintuitive. But stay with me here, because what you're about to discover has nothing to do with superstition or magical thinking. This is about understanding how your subconscious mind actually works, and why the moment you speak certain intentions out loud to others, you essentially drain them of their creative power. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, let me ask you something personal. Has this ever happened to you? You get excited about a goal, a dream, maybe a financial breakthrough you're working toward, and you share it with someone close to you, a friend, a family member, someone you trust. And, almost immediately, you feel that initial surge of excitement start to deflate. Maybe they say something skeptical, or give you that look that says, "Be realistic," or they share a story about why it didn't work for someone else. And suddenly, what felt so possible just moments before now feels heavy, doubtful, uncertain. That's not a coincidence. And it's not just about surrounding yourself with more positive people, though that helps. There's something far deeper happening in those moments, something that Joseph Murphy spent decades researching and teaching about the nature of consciousness and how easily our assumptions can be contaminated by the beliefs of others. Here's what most people don't understand about manifestation. Your subconscious mind is incredibly suggestible, but not in the way you might think. It doesn't just accept what you tell it during your morning affirmations or visualization practices. It's constantly absorbing information from every conversation, every reaction, every subtle energy exchange you have with other people. And when you share a sacred intention, especially one that hasn't yet hardened into unshakable conviction within you, you're essentially opening the door for other people's limitations, doubts, and fears to enter your consciousness. The three words I'm about to share with you operate on a completely different principle. They work because they shift you from a state of wanting, hoping, or wishing into a state of completion. And when you understand why you must keep them silent, you'll realize that this isn't about being secretive or mysterious. It's about protecting the most delicate and powerful moment in the manifestation process, the moment when possibility becomes assumption, and assumption begins its inevitable journey toward becoming fact. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because it goes against almost everything you've been taught about goal setting and manifestation. But if you can suspend your skepticism for just a few more minutes and really hear what I'm saying, let me share something with you that might challenge everything you think you know about how reality actually works. There's a documented case of a woman who was completely broke, drowning in debt with no clear path forward. She came across this three-word technique and decided to apply it with absolute precision. But here's what makes this story different from every other manifestation tale you've heard. She didn't just manifest money or abundance or some vague concept of wealth. She chose a specific number, $112 million. Not a range, not approximately that amount, the exact figure down to the last cent. Now, before you roll your eyes and think this is just another magical thinking story where someone got lucky, let me stop you right there. This woman didn't win the lottery by accident. She didn't just buy a ticket and hope for the best. What she did was engage in a very Specific process every single night for 4 months, using these 3 words in a way that literally reprogrammed her subconscious mind to accept that outcome as an already accomplished fact. And here's the part that makes skeptics uncomfortable. She won exactly $112 million. Not close. Not in the ballpark. Exact. If this content is speaking to you on a level that goes beyond surface understanding, hit that subscribe button. This channel is dedicated to diving deep into the real mechanics of consciousness, manifestation, and transformation. No fluff, just principles that actually work. The reason I'm telling you this isn't to convince you that you should go buy lottery tickets. That's missing the entire point. What this story reveals is something far more profound about the hidden mechanics of consciousness and how your brain processes assumption versus desire. You see, most people approach their goals from a place of wanting, which by definition means you're operating from a state of lack. Your subconscious registers that you don't have it, which keeps you in a perpetual loop of chasing rather than receiving. But when you understand the real psychology behind this technique, and yes, there is actual neuroscience that explains why this works, you realize that your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between something vividly imagined with emotion and something actually experienced. Brain imaging studies have shown this repeatedly. When you assume something is already done, when you claim it as a present fact rather than a future possibility, you're activating the same neural pathways as if it had already happened. This isn't about quantum mysticism or abstract spirituality, though those frameworks can help explain it. This is about understanding how your mind constructs reality from the inside out. The transformation that happens when you shift from hoping to assuming is immediate and measurable. Your decisions change. Your energy changes. The impact you have on the situations and people around you shifts because you're operating from a completely different state of consciousness. And here's the revelation that most people never grasp. The journey from where you are to where you want to be doesn't require you to figure out all the steps. It requires you to claim the end state with such conviction that the path reveals itself automatically. Now, I want to go even deeper into this, because understanding why you must keep these 3 words silent is just as important as knowing what they are. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to assume it," if this is resonating with you so far. Here's what makes this technique so powerful and why understanding its origins matters. Joseph Murphy spent over 4 decades researching the mechanics of the subconscious mind, working directly with thousands of individuals who were facing seemingly impossible situations. He wasn't sitting in an ivory tower theorizing about consciousness. He was in the trenches, documenting actual case after case of people who completely transformed their financial situations, their health, their relationships, all by applying one fundamental principle that most people still don't grasp today. Murphy discovered something that goes against everything we're taught about how change happens. We're conditioned to believe that external circumstances create our internal state, that we feel happy because good things happen, or we feel anxious because our situation is difficult. But what Murphy observed over and over again was the exact opposite. Your internal state, specifically the assumptions you hold in your subconscious mind, is what creates your external circumstances. Not sometimes, always. Think about that for a moment. Everything you're experiencing right now in your physical reality, your bank account, your relationships, your health, your opportunities, all of it is a perfect reflection of what your subconscious mind has accepted as true about you and your life. This isn't metaphorical. Your imagination, when directed with precision and feeling, is literally the most powerful creative force you possess. It's the hidden truth behind every major breakthrough, every unexpected success, every time someone defied the odds and achieved something that seemed statistically impossible. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to use their imagination like a wish list, hoping and visualizing and affirming, yet still operating from a mindset of not having. The impact of this is devastating because your subconscious doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you assume is already true. When you're hoping for something, you're reinforcing the fact that you don't have it. When you're wishing for a different reality, you're confirming your current one. This is why those three words work. They don't leave room for doubt or future tense. They claim completion, present tense, done. And when you claim something as already accomplished in consciousness, your subconscious mind has no choice but to accept it and begin the process of externalizing that assumption into your physical experience. The journey from internal assumption to external manifestation isn't about making things happen through force or effort. It's about allowing what you've already claimed in consciousness to unfold naturally. Murphy proved this principle through documented case studies, not just inspiring stories. People who were facing bankruptcy and within weeks found unexpected solutions. Individuals diagnosed with supposedly incurable conditions who experienced complete recoveries. Relationships that seemed beyond repair that transformed overnight. The common thread in every single case was this. They shifted from wanting to having, from hoping to knowing, from future possibility to present fact. The transformation happens in consciousness first, and the external world has no choice but to conform to that inner conviction. And the reason silence is essential in this process is because the moment you speak your assumption to someone operating from a different state of consciousness, you invite their limitations into your creative process. Write in the comments, "It is done," if you're understanding how this works on a deeper level now. The reason this principle feels so radical is because we've been programmed to believe the opposite our entire lives. We're taught that reality is fixed, that circumstances dictate our experience, that we need to react to what's happening around us. But what if everything you've been taught about cause and effect is backwards? What if the external world isn't creating your internal experience, but rather your internal assumptions are projecting outward and creating what you experience as reality? This isn't some abstract philosophical concept. This is the mechanics of how consciousness actually operates. Your imagination isn't just daydreaming or fantasy. When properly directed with feeling and conviction, your imagination is the architect of your reality. Every single thing that exists in the physical world was first imagined by someone. Every building, every invention, every breakthrough started as an internal image before it became an external fact. The same principle applies to your personal reality. Change your inner world, the assumptions you hold about yourself, your worthiness, your possibilities, and the outer world has no choice but to reorganize itself to match. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is the behind-the-scenes revelation that most people never discover. There was a specific technique that teachers of consciousness would only share with their most dedicated students. Not because they wanted to hoard knowledge or create some elite club, but because they understood something crucial about how this process works. Sacred knowledge requires protection, not from the world, but from contamination. When you're working with consciousness at this level, when you're attempting to shift from one state of being to another, you're in the most vulnerable part of the journey. Your new assumption hasn't hardened into conviction yet. It's tender, malleable, easily influenced. And the moment you share it with someone who operates from limitation, doubt, or fear, even if they love you and mean well, you're inviting their consciousness to interfere with yours. Their skepticism, their past failures, their beliefs about what's possible and impossible, all of that enters your mental space and weakens your assumption. This is why the three-word technique was taught privately. It wasn't about gatekeeping power. It was about understanding that the transformation you're attempting to create happens in silence first. The impact of speaking your assumption prematurely is that you dilute its creative force. You turn something that should be developing in the dark, protected space of your own consciousness into something that's now being questioned, analyzed, and doubted by minds that don't understand the principle you're applying. Most people fail at manifestation not because the technique doesn't work, but because they can't keep the secret. They get excited, they share their dream, and they immediately feel the energy drain from it. That's not psychological. That's actual creative force being dispersed. Your decisions moving forward will be influenced not just by your own conviction, but by every doubt that was planted in your mind through well-meaning conversations with people who simply don't operate from the same understanding of consciousness that you're now learning. If you're starting to see why silence is just as important as the words themselves, write in the comments, "I protect my assumption." So let me give you the 3 words now, because everything I've been building up to this point has been preparing you to receive them correctly. The 3 words are "it is done." Simple, right? Almost too simple. And that's exactly why most people will hear them and completely miss the profound shift in consciousness they represent. The power isn't in the words themselves. Anyone can say, "it is done," and nothing changes. The power is in the state of being you occupy when you say them, the conviction behind them, the absolute certainty that what you're claiming has already been accomplished in the realm where all creation originates. Think about the difference between these 2 statements. "I hope I get the promotion" versus "it is done, I have the promotion." The first one is a wish, a desire, a future possibility that may or may not happen. It keeps you in a state of waiting, hoping, wanting. The second one is a declaration of fact. There's no question mark at the end. There's no room for doubt. It's claiming the end result as an already accomplished reality. And here's the hidden truth that changes everything. Your subconscious mind responds to conviction, not desire. It moves toward what you assume is true, not what you hope might be true. When you say, "it is done," you're making a very specific decision at the level of consciousness. You're choosing to operate from the end, from completion, from having already achieved what you desire. This isn't pretending. This isn't fake it till you make it positive thinking. This is understanding that in consciousness, everything exists simultaneously. Past, present, and future are human constructs to help us navigate linear time. But at the level of infinite consciousness, the version of you that already has what you desire exists right now. And when you say, "it is done," you're claiming that version of yourself as your present reality. The transformation that happens in your entire energy system is immediate. You're no longer vibrating at the frequency of wanting, which is actually a frequency of lack. You're vibrating at the frequency of having, of completion, of gratitude for what already is. The impact this has on your decisions, your behavior, your opportunities, even the way other people respond to you, is profound. You start showing up differently because you're operating from a different assumption about who you are and what's available to you. Most people go through life in a constant state of hoping and wishing. They affirm what they want while simultaneously reinforcing that they don't have it. But when you understand how to use these 3 words correctly, you're bypassing the entire journey of doubt and uncertainty. You're claiming the destination as your current location. And your subconscious, which cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined reality and a physically experienced one, begins to reorganize your entire life around this new assumption. The revelations about how reality actually works start to become clear once you experience this shift for yourself. If you're grasping why "it is done" is fundamentally different from affirmations or positive thinking, write in the comments, "I claim it now." Here's something that will help you understand the state of consciousness you're aiming for. Think about something in your life that's already done, already accomplished. Maybe it's your college degree, or the fact that you live in your current home, or that you're in a relationship with someone. Notice how you feel when you think about these things. There's no anxiety, right? No desperation, no begging the universe, no constantly checking to see if it's happening. There's just calm certainty. You don't wake up every morning hoping you still have your degree or worrying that your house might disappear. It's done, it's settled, it's a fact of your reality. That's the exact frequency you're tuning into when you use these three words correctly. You're not generating the energy of wanting or needing. You're embodying the energy of having, and the difference between those two states is everything. When you want something, you're broadcasting to your subconscious and to the field around you that you're in lack. When you claim something as already done, you're broadcasting completion, fulfillment, gratitude. The transformation in your entire being is instantaneous because you're no longer chasing. You're receiving what's already yours. Now let me take you even deeper into why this works on a level that most people never consider. Time itself is a construct we created to make sense of linear experience. We experience one moment after another, cause followed by effect, today leading into tomorrow. But at the level of infinite consciousness, at the quantum field where all possibilities exist, there is no past, present, or future. Everything that could ever happen is happening right now, simultaneously. The version of you that's struggling financially and the version of you that's abundant both exist in the eternal now. The you that's single and the you that's in your ideal relationship coexist in the same infinite field of potential. When you say it is done, you're not creating something from nothing. You're selecting which version of reality you're going to experience. You're collapsing the quantum wave of possibility into a specific outcome. The hidden truth behind manifestation isn't that you're making things happen through some mystical force. You're choosing which already existing reality you're going to occupy with your consciousness. And consciousness always externalizes what it occupies internally. The journey from internal assumption to external experience isn't about waiting for time to pass. It's about maintaining the conviction that what you've claimed in consciousness is already real, and allowing the physical world to catch up to your inner knowing. This is why anxiety and desperation are such clear indicators that you're not operating from the right state. When something is truly done, there's peace, there's knowing. The impact of maintaining that state of completion, regardless of what your current circumstances look like, is that you're giving your subconscious clear instructions about which reality to manifest. If this is clicking for you on a level that goes beyond intellectual understanding, write in the comments, "I choose my reality now." The brilliance of this technique is in how it communicates with your subconscious mind. Your subconscious doesn't have the ability to argue with a statement of fact. When you say, "It is done," you're not presenting it with a wish that it can debate or a hope that it can dismiss. You're giving it a command disguised as a completed reality, and your subconscious, which controls 95% of your thoughts, behaviors, and decisions, immediately begins the process of aligning your external experience with this internal declaration. It doesn't question whether it's possible. It simply accepts the instruction and starts reorganizing your reality to match. This is why specificity matters so much in this process. Remember that woman I mentioned earlier who was completely broke and drowning in debt? She didn't just say, "I want to be wealthy" or "I need money." She chose an exact number, $112 million. That wasn't pulled out of thin air. She sat down and calculated precisely what it would take to live the life she truly desired and to help everyone in her family. The specificity wasn't about being greedy or unrealistic. It was about giving her subconscious a clear, definite target to work toward. When you're vague with your desires, your subconscious gets confused. It doesn't know which version of success you're claiming, which level of abundance you're assuming. But when you're specific, when you claim an exact outcome with precision and clarity, your subconscious has clear marching orders. The transformation happens faster because there's no ambiguity. Your decisions start aligning with that specific reality. The impact on your behavior becomes measurable. You're not hoping for better anymore. You're claiming a defined result. And here's what most people miss. Being specific doesn't limit you. It focuses you. It takes all that scattered energy of wanting lots of different things and channels it into one clear intention. When that woman said, "It is done, I have $112 million, she wasn't wishing or fantasizing. She was occupying the consciousness of someone who already had that exact amount. Every night she would feel what it felt like to have achieved that specific goal, not someday, now, already done. The hidden truth is that your subconscious doesn't care if your goal seems impossible to your logical mind. It only cares about what you've impressed upon it with feeling and repetition. When you combine the declaration, "It is done," with a specific, clear image of what done looks like, you're giving your subconscious the blueprint it needs to manifest that reality. This journey from internal assumption to external manifestation begins with this level of clarity and conviction. If you're understanding why vague desires create vague results, write in the comments, "I claim my specific reality." What made her success inevitable wasn't just saying the 3 words. It was what she did with absolute consistency every single night for 4 months. And this is where most people abandon the process, because consistency requires commitment when nothing in your physical reality is reflecting what you're claiming in consciousness. But she understood something profound. The work happens in the invisible realm first, and only after it's established there does it show up in the visible world. Every night, she would do something very specific. She wouldn't visualize the process of buying a lottery ticket or imagine checking the numbers. She went straight to the end. She imagined the exact moment of discovering that she had won $112 million. Not the journey toward it, the moment of completion, the moment of "it is done" made manifest. And here's the crucial part that separates this from passive daydreaming. She didn't just see it in her mind like watching a movie. She felt it, the shock, the disbelief, the overwhelming joy that would flood through her body in that moment. This is the hidden mechanics of how consciousness creates reality. Your subconscious mind doesn't respond to images alone. It responds to feeling. Emotion is the language your subconscious understands. When you combine a clear image with authentic feeling, you're not just thinking about your desire anymore. You're experiencing it. You're living in it. And your subconscious cannot tell the difference between something vividly felt in imagination and something physically experienced. To your subconscious, if you're feeling it now, it's happening now. She made that moment of discovery so real in her mind that her body would respond as if it were actually happening. Her heart would race. She'd feel that surge of electricity through her entire system. She'd imagine who she would call first, what words she would say, how her voice would sound breaking the news. Full sensory detail, complete immersion. The transformation wasn't happening in some distant future. It was happening every single night in her consciousness, which meant it was already done at the level where all creation originates. This is what it means to live in the end. You're not living in the wish or the hope or the someday. You're occupying the consciousness of someone for whom it's already accomplished. The impact this has on your entire energy system is that you stop emitting the frequency of lack and start emitting the frequency of fulfillment. And whatever frequency you're consistently broadcasting is what reality will reflect back to you. The journey from internal conviction to external manifestation requires you to feel the reality of your desire before you see it, which is exactly the opposite of how most people approach their goals. If you're seeing why feeling is more important than just visualizing, write in the comments, "I feel it done." Now let me reveal the second part of what she did every night. And this is where the real magic happens. Right before drifting off to sleep in that drowsy state where your body is heavy and your mind is starting to let go of conscious control, she would repeat these exact words. "It is done. I have won $112 million. It is done." This wasn't random timing. This is arguably the most powerful moment of your entire day for programming your subconscious mind. When you're in that state between waking and sleeping, something remarkable happens. Your conscious mind, with all its filters, doubts, and logical objections, starts to go offline. Your critical faculty, the part of you that says, "That's impossible," or "Be realistic," temporarily shuts down. In this state, your subconscious is wide open, completely receptive, like fertile soil ready to receive whatever seed you plant. Whatever you impress upon your subconscious in this moment gets accepted without resistance. No arguments, no analysis, just pure absorption. This is why she chose this specific time to declare, "It is done." She was bypassing the gatekeeper of her conscious mind and speaking directly to the part of her that actually controls her reality. And she did this with absolute consistency. 4 months. Every single night, no exceptions. The transformation doesn't happen because you do it once with intensity. It happens because you do it repeatedly with conviction until it hardens into an unshakable assumption. But here's the part that most people completely miss, and it's the reason why so many manifestation attempts fail. She told absolutely no one. Not her best friend, not her mother, not a single person. She kept this entire process a sacred secret between her and her own consciousness. And this wasn't about being mysterious or playing games. This was about understanding a fundamental principle that determines whether your assumption will manifest or dissolve. The moment you share your sacred intention with someone else, especially before it's hardened into absolute conviction within you, you're opening the door for their beliefs, their doubts, their limitations to contaminate your consciousness. Even people who love you, who want the best for you, will project their own understanding of what's possible onto your dream. They'll tell you to be realistic. They'll remind you of the odds. They'll share stories of people who tried and failed. And every single one of those interactions weakens the assumption you're trying to build. The impact of one skeptical conversation can undo weeks of internal work because you're no longer operating purely from your own conviction. If you're recognizing how many times you've sabotaged your own manifestations by sharing them too soon, write in the comments, "I guard my vision." 4 months of unwavering commitment, 4 months of feeling it done, 4 months of sacred silence. And then it happened. She won exactly $112 million, not close to that amount, not in the ballpark, not approximately, exact. Down to the last cent, the precise number she had been claiming in consciousness every single night. Think about the statistical improbability of that for a moment. She didn't just win a lottery. She won the specific amount she had declared as already done. Now, your logical mind wants to call this coincidence, random probability, lucky timing. But let me share something with you that changes the entire framework of how you understand reality. Probability itself bends to assumption. This isn't mystical thinking. This is about understanding that consciousness isn't passive. Consciousness is creative. When you assume something with complete conviction, when you occupy the state of already having it with unwavering faith, you're not just hoping the universe will randomly deliver what you want. You're actually collapsing the field of infinite possibilities into the specific outcome you've claimed. The hidden truth that most people never grasp is that reality isn't as fixed as we think it is. What we call coincidence, or luck, or probability, are just labels we use to explain phenomena that we don't fully understand. But quantum physics has already proven what spiritual teachers have been saying for thousands of years. The observer affects the observed. Your consciousness isn't separate from reality. Your consciousness is actively participating in creating reality at every single moment. When that woman claimed $112 million as already done, she wasn't hoping to beat the odds. She was changing the odds from the inside out. The transformation happened first in consciousness, where all creation originates. The impact of her unwavering assumption was that every decision she made, every action she took, every energy she emitted, was aligned with someone who already had that exact amount. She wasn't trying to manifest it. She was being someone for whom it was already true. And reality had no choice but to conform to that inner state. This is the part where people get stuck because they're waiting for external confirmation before they truly believe. But that's backwards. The external world is always a reflection of your internal state, never the cause of it. You don't believe because you see it. You see it because you believed first. The journey from assumption to manifestation requires you to hold the conviction even when nothing in your physical reality supports it yet, especially in those moments when logic screams that it's impossible. If you're starting to see that this isn't about luck or chance, but about the mechanics of consciousness itself, write in the comments, "Reality follows my assumption." Here's what breaks my heart when I work with people on manifestation. They finally understand the principle. They get excited about the 3 words. They start applying the technique, and then immediately, almost reflexively, they sabotage the entire process. They tell their spouse, they share it with their best friend, they post about it on social media, and in that moment of sharing, they unknowingly invite every limitation, every doubt, every skeptical belief that exists in the consciousness of others, directly into their own creative process. This isn't about being secretive for the sake of drama. This is about understanding that silence is not optional in this work. It's essential. Your assumption, especially in the beginning, is tender. It hasn't hardened into unshakable conviction yet. It's like a seed that's just been planted. And the moment you dig it up to show people, to get their validation, to hear their thoughts, you expose it to elements that will kill it before it ever has a chance to grow. When you share your sacred intention with someone else, you're not just telling them information, you're energetically inviting their consciousness to interact with yours. And here's the problem. Most people, even people who love you deeply, operate from a mindset of limitation. They've been programmed by the same world that taught you that reality is fixed, that certain things are impossible, that you need to be realistic. So when you tell them about your $112 million goal, or your specific dream, or whatever it is you're claiming is already done, they respond from their programming, not from the understanding you're now developing. They'll say things like, "Well, that's nice, but you know the odds are pretty slim," or "I just don't want you to be disappointed," or "Have you thought about what you'll do when it doesn't work out?" And every single one of those statements, no matter how well-intentioned, plants a seed of doubt in your consciousness. The impact is immediate. You walk away from that conversation feeling slightly deflated, slightly less certain, slightly more aware of all the reasons it might not happen. That's contamination. That's your assumption being weakened by someone else's limitations. The transformation you're trying to create requires a protected space. Think about it like growing something in a greenhouse. You don't open all the windows and doors and let whatever weather conditions exist outside come flooding in. You control the environment. You maintain the perfect conditions for growth. Your consciousness is that greenhouse, and the assumption you're trying to harden into fact is what you're growing. The journey from tender assumption to manifested reality demands that you guard what you're creating with absolute vigilance. If this is making you realize how many times external opinions have derailed your internal conviction, write in the comments, "My silence is sacred." The most painful part of this is that the people who contaminate your assumption are usually the ones who care about you most. Your parents, your closest friends, your partner. They genuinely believe they're protecting you from disappointment. They think they're being helpful by reminding you of reality, by encouraging you to have a backup plan, by pointing out all the ways it might not work. They're operating from love, but they're also operating from limitation, and limitation is contagious. Think about how quickly doubt spreads. You can spend weeks building up your conviction, feeling it done every night, claiming it with certainty. And then one 5-minute conversation with someone who doesn't understand consciousness can unravel all of that internal work. They ask, "Are you sure about that?" And suddenly you're questioning yourself. They say, "That sounds impossible." And you start thinking about all the reasons why they might be right. They remind you of someone who tried something similar and failed, and now their story is in your consciousness, creating a blueprint for failure instead of success. Every single one of these interactions is like dropping poison into fertile soil. You've planted this beautiful seed of assumption, you've been nurturing it in the darkness of your own consciousness, and then you expose it to the harsh light of other people's fears and limitations. The contamination is immediate. Your assumption, which needs to be absolute and unwavering to manifest, becomes riddled with doubt. And doubt is the killer of manifestation. Not because the universe is punishing you for doubting, but because doubt means you're no longer occupying the state of having. You're back in the state of hoping, which is another way of saying lacking. This is the hidden behind-the-scenes truth that nobody talks about. The journey from assumption to manifestation isn't just about doing the technique correctly. It's about protecting your consciousness from contamination while your assumption is still forming. The transformation you're attempting to create is happening at a level that most people can't see or understand. When you try to explain it to them, they filter it through their own beliefs about what's possible, and their beliefs become interference in your creative process. The impact of breaking your silence prematurely is that you're essentially asking permission from people who don't have the understanding or the conviction that you're developing. You're seeking validation from consciousness that operates at a completely different frequency than the one you're trying to claim. And in doing so, you give away your power. You make your assumption vulnerable to every limiting belief that exists in the collective consciousness around you. If you're understanding why protecting your assumption is just as important as creating it, write in the comments, "I am the only authority." Let me give you a metaphor that makes this whole concept crystal clear. Imagine you've just planted a seed in dark, rich earth. You've given it everything it needs to grow, the right soil, the right conditions, the perfect environment. Now, what would happen if every single day you dug it up to check on it, to see if it's growing yet, to show your friends and get their opinion on whether they think it's going to sprout? You'd kill it. The constant exposure, the disruption, the lack of protected darkness would destroy that seed before it ever had a chance to become what it was meant to. Your assumption works exactly the same way. When you claim something as done, when you impress it upon your subconscious with feeling and conviction, you've planted a seed in consciousness. And that seed needs to be left alone in sacred darkness. It needs to grow undisturbed, protected from the harsh light of other people's opinions and doubts. The transformation from seed to manifestation happens naturally when you stop interfering with the process. But the moment you start digging it up to show people, to get their validation, to hear what they think, you're destroying the very thing you're trying to create. This is what I mean when I talk about your spiritual romance with your desire. There's an intimate relationship between you and what you're claiming is already done. It's personal, it's sacred, and when you share it prematurely with people who cannot comprehend what you're doing, you're essentially profaning something holy. Not in a religious sense, but in the sense that you're taking something pure and powerful and exposing it to contamination. And here's what you need to understand. Most people cannot comprehend this level of work. Not because they're bad people or because they're trying to hold you back, but because they're living in a completely different state of consciousness than the one you're attempting to claim. They see reality as fixed. They believe in limitations. They operate from past experiences and statistical probabilities. You're operating from the understanding that consciousness creates reality. That assumption hardens into fact, that the invisible realm is where all creation begins. When you try to explain your sacred intention to someone who doesn't operate from this understanding, it's like trying to describe color to someone who's never had sight. They literally don't have the framework to comprehend what you're saying, and in their attempt to understand or respond, they pull you back down to their level of consciousness. The impact on your assumption is immediate and devastating because you're no longer holding the frequency of "it is done." You're defending, explaining, justifying, hoping they'll believe you. If you're seeing why your spiritual romance with your desire must remain between you and your consciousness alone, write in the comments, "This is my sacred work." Now let me walk you through exactly how to apply this technique, because understanding the principle is one thing, but actually doing it correctly is what separates those who manifest from those who just wish. The very first step, before you take any physical action toward your desire, is to assume total completion, not partial, not "I hope this works." Total. This is the foundation that everything else builds upon. Most people do this backwards. They take action first and then hope the universe will respond. They buy the lottery ticket while thinking, "Maybe I'll win." They apply for the job while hoping they'll get it. They ask someone out while wishing they'll say yes. But that's operating from lack, from wanting, from uncertainty. And your subconscious picks up on that frequency instantly. Before you do anything in the physical world, you must first claim completion in consciousness. You must occupy the state of someone for whom it's already done. Not might be done, is done, finished, accomplished, complete. Here's how you anchor this assumption into your being. Decide exactly what you want. Be ruthlessly specific. Don't say, "I want to be wealthy." Say, "I have $500,000 in my bank account." Don't say, "I want a relationship." Say, "I am in a committed, loving relationship with my ideal partner." Whatever it is, make it concrete, definite, specific. Then stand in front of a mirror, look yourself directly in the eyes, and declare out loud, "It is done." And state your full name, and state your exact desire. It is done. Say it 3 times, not rushed, not mechanical, with feeling, with conviction. Let each word sink into your entire being. Feel the weight of that declaration. This isn't just speaking words into a mirror. This is you claiming a new identity. You're not the person hoping for this thing anymore. You are the person for whom this is already accomplished. The transformation happens in that moment when you shift from wanting to having. The impact on your entire energy system is immediate because you're no longer broadcasting the frequency of lack. This mirror technique is powerful because you're engaging multiple senses. You're seeing yourself as you make this declaration. You're hearing your own voice claiming it as fact. You're feeling the conviction in your body. Your subconscious is receiving this information through every channel, and it cannot argue with the certainty you're projecting. The journey from this declaration to physical manifestation begins the moment you truly embody the state of completion, not when you take external action. If you're ready to stop hoping and start claiming, write in the comments, "I declare it done." Now here's the secret weapon that makes this entire technique exponentially more powerful, and it's all about timing. There's a specific window of opportunity that occurs every single night, and most people completely waste it. I'm talking about that drowsy state right before you fall asleep, when your body becomes heavy, your thoughts start to drift, and you're suspended between waking consciousness and sleep. This is the most receptive state your subconscious mind will ever be in during your entire day. Here's what happens in this state. Your conscious mind, with all its filters, all its doubts, all its logical objections, starts to go offline. That critical faculty that constantly questions everything, that tells you what's realistic and what's impossible, temporarily shuts down. Your subconscious becomes wide open, like a door that's usually locked suddenly swinging open and inviting you in. In this moment, whatever you impress upon your subconscious gets accepted without resistance. No arguments, no analysis, just pure, direct programming. This is when you do the most important work of your entire day. As you're lying there, body heavy, mind drifting, you repeat the 3 words with your specific desire attached. It is done. I have exactly what I claimed. It is done. But here's the crucial part that most people miss. You don't just repeat the words mechanically like some kind of robot. While you're saying them, you're simultaneously imagining the moment your desire has manifested, not the process of getting it, not the steps along the way, the end result, the moment of discovery, the moment you realize it's already yours. Feel what that moment feels like. See what you would see. Hear the sounds around you. Make it vivid. Make it real. Make it now. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between something vividly imagined and something actually experienced. So when you're in this drowsy state, combining the declaration "it is done" with the sensory experience of having it, you're literally programming new neural pathways. The transformation isn't happening in some distant future. It's happening right now. In consciousness, which is where all creation begins. The impact of doing this consistently, night after night, is that your subconscious stops seeing your desire as something you're trying to get and starts seeing it as something you already have. The journey from assumption to manifestation accelerates because you're impressing the same conviction onto your subconscious at the exact moment when it's most receptive. This isn't just wishful thinking before bed. This is strategic, targeted reprogramming of the part of you that controls 95% of your reality. If you're committing to using this powerful window every night, write in the comments, "Every night, it is done." The power of this technique multiplies exponentially when you engage all of your senses in the imaginal act. This is where most people stay surface level, and that's why their manifestations remain surface level too. They visualize in a vague, distant way, like watching a movie that doesn't really involve them. But what you need to do is step into that scene completely, make it so real that your body responds as if it's actually happening right now. What are you seeing in that moment when your desire is fulfilled? Don't just see yourself from the outside. See through your own eyes. What's in front of you? What colors? What details? What are you feeling physically in your body? Is your heart racing? Are you trembling with excitement? Is there warmth spreading through your chest? Who's the first person you're calling to share the news? What's their voice going to sound like when they answer? What exact words are you going to say? How will your voice crack with emotion as you tell them? These aren't minor details. These are the sensory anchors that make your subconscious believe this is real. When you engage all your senses like this, you're not imagining anymore. You're experiencing, and your subconscious cannot tell the difference between a vividly experienced imagination and actual physical reality. To your nervous system, if you're feeling it now, it's happening now. The transformation occurs at the cellular level because your body is literally responding to this reality you're creating in consciousness. The impact goes far beyond mental exercise. You're creating new neural pathways, new emotional patterns, new energetic signatures that align with the reality you're claiming. And this brings me to what might be the most important principle in this entire teaching. Live in the end. not in the journey toward the end. Most people make the mistake of visualizing the process, the steps, the how. They imagine applying for the job, going to the interview, waiting to hear back. But that keeps you in the state of becoming, which means you're still in lack. Instead, you jump straight to the end. You imagine having the job. You feel what it's like on your first day already working there. You experience the reality of it being done. When you live in the end, when you occupy the consciousness of someone for whom the wish is already fulfilled, something miraculous happens. The journey manifests automatically. The how takes care of itself. You don't need to figure out the steps, because your subconscious, now convinced that this is your reality, starts guiding you naturally toward opportunities, decisions, and synchronicities that make it happen. The revelations about your path forward come effortlessly because you're not forcing anything. You're simply being someone for whom it's already complete. If you're understanding why living in the end is more powerful than visualizing the journey, write in the comments, "I live in my fulfilled reality." I need to emphasize this one more time because it's the part where most people will fail, even after understanding everything I've shared so far. Do not tell anyone. Keep this entire process private. Guard your assumption like you would guard a newborn child. This isn't about being mysterious or playing games with secrecy. This is about understanding that your assumption, especially in the beginning, is vulnerable to contamination from the consciousness of others. Think about what happens when a baby is born. You don't immediately expose that infant to harsh weather, to crowds of people, to environments where they could get sick. You protect them. You keep them in a controlled, safe space until they're strong enough to handle the outside world. Your assumption works exactly the same way. In the beginning, it's tender. It hasn't hardened into unshakable conviction yet. It needs time to develop, to strengthen, to become so solid within you that nothing external can shake it. When you share your assumption prematurely, you're essentially taking that tender newborn and throwing it into a storm of other people's doubts, fears, and limitations. Even one conversation with someone who doesn't understand consciousness can undo weeks of internal work. They'll ask questions that plant seeds of doubt. They'll remind you of past failures. They'll project their own limitations onto your dream. And suddenly, what felt like an absolute certainty inside you now feels questionable, uncertain, maybe even foolish. The hidden truth is that your assumption needs to reach a critical mass of conviction before it can withstand external scrutiny. It's like a chemical reaction that needs specific conditions to complete. If you interrupt the process before it's finished, the reaction stops, and you're left with something incomplete, something that never reaches its full potential. The transformation from tender assumption to hardened fact requires protected space and sacred silence during the crucial developmental phase. The impact of breaking this silence isn't just that people might discourage you. It's that their consciousness literally interferes with yours. You're working at a frequency that most people don't operate at. You're claiming something as done that they still see as impossible. And when you try to bring them into your reality, you end up getting pulled into theirs instead. The journey from assumption to manifestation demands that you maintain your own unique frequency without dilution from others who don't share your conviction. This is why every successful manifestation story you've ever heard includes a period of silence. The person kept their dream private until it manifested. They didn't announce their intentions. They didn't seek validation. They simply held the assumption in sacred silence until it became so real within them that the external world had no choice but to reflect it back. If you're committing to guard your assumption in sacred silence until it manifests, write in the comments, "My conviction is unshakable." Now let me show you why this isn't just spiritual philosophy or wishful thinking. There's actual neuroscience that explains exactly why this technique works, and when you understand the biology behind it, your conviction will deepen exponentially. Brain imaging studies have proven something remarkable. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and one that's physically happening to you. When you imagine something with enough sensory detail and authentic emotion, the exact same neural pathways light up in your brain as if you were actually experiencing it in physical reality. Think about what that means. When you're lying in bed at night, in that drowsy state, repeating, "It is done," while feeling the reality of having your desire fulfilled, your brain is literally creating the same neural connections it would create if you were actually living that reality right now. You're not pretending. You're not faking it. You're actually experiencing it at a neurological level. The transformation happening in your brain is measurable, physical, real. This is why feeling is so crucial to the process. When you repeat, "It is done," with genuine emotion, with the feeling of already having what you desire, you're programming your subconscious at the deepest possible level. This isn't metaphorical. This is literal neurological reprogramming. Every time you engage in this practice with conviction and feeling, you're strengthening specific neural pathways while weakening others. You're essentially rewiring your brain to operate from the assumption of having rather than the state of wanting. The hidden truth that most people never grasp is that your subconscious is always being programmed. The question isn't whether you're programming it, but what you're programming it with. Most people unknowingly program their subconscious with limitation, doubt, and fear through their habitual thoughts and the content they consume from others. But when you take control of this process, when you deliberately and consistently impress the conviction, "It is done," onto your subconscious, you're overriding years of conditioning. The impact of this neurological reprogramming extends far beyond your thoughts. Your subconscious controls your autonomic nervous system, your habits, your impulses, the decisions you make without conscious thought. When you program it with the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, it begins automatically guiding you toward behaviors, opportunities, and synchronicities that align with that reality. You start noticing things you would have missed before. You make different choices. You show up differently in situations. Not because you're trying to force anything, but because your internal operating system has been updated. This is the behind-the-scenes mechanics of how consciousness creates reality. It's not magic. It's biology combined with quantum principles. Your brain creates your perception of reality based on the programs running in your subconscious. Change the programs, and you literally change what you experience as real. If you're seeing how this is actual science, not just belief, write in the comments, "I'm rewiring my reality." Here's something that will blow your mind when you really sit with it. Your subconscious mind is responsible for about 95% of everything you think, everything you do, and every decision you make throughout your day. That means only 5% of your life is being run by your conscious, analytical mind. The other 95% is operating on autopilot, following programs that were installed years ago, often without your awareness or permission. This is actually incredible news once you understand the implications. When you successfully program your subconscious with a new assumption, when you convince that 95% that your desire is already done, it automatically begins guiding you toward that reality without any conscious effort on your part. You don't have to figure out the how. You don't have to force anything. Your subconscious takes over and starts making micro-adjustments to your entire life that align with the new assumption you've impressed upon it. The transformation happens in ways that seem almost magical from the outside, but they're completely natural when you understand the mechanics. Once your subconscious accepts "it is done" as fact, you start noticing Opportunities that were always there but you were blind to before. A conversation you would have normally tuned out suddenly contains exactly the information you need. A person you meet casually turns out to have a connection that changes everything. An idea pops into your head out of nowhere that leads to the exact breakthrough you've been claiming. These aren't coincidences. This is your subconscious, now programmed with your new assumption, filtering reality through a completely different lens. You're making different choices without even realizing you're choosing differently. You're showing up to situations with a different energy because you're operating from the consciousness of someone who already has what you desire. And here's the hidden truth that most people never grasp. You emit a frequency, an energetic signature that's determined by your internal state. When your internal state shifts from wanting to having, your frequency shifts too. And the universe, or reality, or whatever you want to call the field of infinite possibilities, responds to frequency. You become a vibrational match for your desire, which means circumstances, people, and opportunities that match that frequency start appearing in your experience. The impact isn't that you're magically attracting things from thin air, it's that you're finally tuned to the channel where those things already exist. The journey from programmed assumption to physical manifestation happens through this automatic alignment of energy, decisions, and opportunities. If you're starting to see how the subconscious does the heavy lifting once you program it correctly, write in the comments, "My subconscious creates my reality." Now we arrive at what separates those who manifest from those who merely wish, the principle that Joseph Murphy taught and proved over and over again. Any assumption, though it may seem completely false to your current circumstances, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Notice that word, persisted, not tried once with enthusiasm, not attempted for a few days until doubt creeps in, persisted, maintained, held with unwavering conviction, regardless of what your physical reality is showing you. This is where most people fail. They say, "It is done," for a week, and when nothing changes in their bank account or their situation, they abandon the assumption and return to their old state of consciousness. They think the technique doesn't work. But the technique isn't the problem. The lack of persistence is. Your assumption is like concrete that's been poured. It needs time to set, to cure, to harden into something solid and unshakable. If you keep disturbing it before it's had time to solidify, it never becomes what it was meant to be. The transformation from tender assumption to manifested fact requires you to hold your new state of consciousness even when everything around you is screaming that it's not true yet. This is faith, not blind belief in some external deity or force. Faith is the unwavering conviction that what you've assumed in consciousness must, by law, manifest in physical form. It's understanding that consciousness is cause and the physical world is effect, never the other way around. The impact of this understanding changes everything because you stop looking to the outside world for confirmation and start trusting the invisible realm where all creation originates. Your current circumstances are nothing more than the hardened assumptions of your past. They're old news, they're yesterday's consciousness made visible. When you persist in a new assumption, you're essentially planting new seeds while the old harvest is still visible. And here's what tests most people. The old harvest doesn't disappear the moment you plant new seeds. There's a gap, a period where you're holding the new assumption internally while the old reality still surrounds you externally. This is the journey that requires unwavering commitment, no matter what shows up in your physical experience. You persist in your assumption. Bill collector's calling? It is done. I am financially abundant. Rejection letter arrives? It is done. I have my ideal position. Current relationship falling apart? It is done. I am in my perfect partnership. This isn't denial. This is understanding the law. Consciousness creates. assumption hardens into fact. The physical world must conform to your inner conviction when that conviction becomes absolute. If you're ready to persist in your assumption, no matter what the external world shows you, write in the comments, "I persist until it hardens." So here we are. You've made it all the way through, which tells me something important about you. You're not someone who just casually consumes content and moves on. You're actually serious about understanding how consciousness works, about applying these principles, about transforming your reality from the inside out. And that matters. If you found value in what we explored together today, if something clicked for you that hadn't clicked before, I'd genuinely appreciate it if you'd subscribe to this channel. I don't create content just to fill space on the internet. Every video is built on these same principles we've been discussing: depth, truth, practical application. And if this resonated with you, there's a lot more where this came from. Leave a comment right now and just write, "This message was meant for me." I read every single comment. And there's something powerful about declaring your commitment publicly, even if it's just a simple phrase in a comment section. It's another way of claiming your new assumption. And if you feel like this video gave you something valuable, hit that like button. It helps more people find this content, and honestly, it lets me know that what I'm sharing is landing the way I intend it to. There's a real connection that happens when you engage with content that speaks to you on a deeper level. And I appreciate you being part of that. Now, there's another video right here that takes this conversation even further. It complements everything we just covered, and I think you'll find it's the perfect next step. Click on it and continue this journey with me over there. Let's keep going.